In the fall of 1975, my grandmother Della stood in the Kroger on Markland Avenue in Kokomo, Indiana, put her thumb on the bottom corner of a shelf tag, and read out loud the one number that store had spent good money hoping she would never notice. The big red sticker on that box of oats shouted a single price at her, proud and easy to read from clear across the aisle. Her thumb slid straight past it, down to the small print underneath. 11 cents an ounce. Then she stepped 2 shelves lower, near the floor, to a plain paper bag of the very same rolled oats, and she read the small print on that tag too. 8 cents an ounce. Same grain, same weight, 3 cents an ounce apart, and one of them dressed up like a birthday. She said both numbers out loud, the way she said them her whole life, set the plain bag in the cart, and left the pretty box exactly where it sat. That is the whole video right there. Those are the grocery store tricks that empty your cart, and the one number they hide. Because a grocery store is not a pantry that helps you keep house. It is a machine, and the machine has exactly one job. It is built to move the item it earns the most money on into your hand before you ever stop to check what that item costs you by weight. Every aisle, every shelf, every bright sticker, and every soft note of music drifting down from the ceiling is arranged around that one job. And the job is not you saving money. So here is the number they hide, right up at the top, before we walk a single aisle together. It is the unit price. The cost per ounce, or per pound, or per quart, printed down at the very bottom of the shelf tag in the smallest type the law will let a store use. Not the big friendly price on the front of the box. The little one tucked underneath it, the one you have to lean in for. That is the honest number. It is the only figure in the entire building that tells you what you are truly paying. And this whole store is laid out so your eye never once falls on it by accident. My grandmother read that number her entire life. By the time the stores finally started printing it out for you in the early 1970s, she had already been doing that same arithmetic in her own head at the counter for 40 years. The temptation was old as the hills, only the tag was new. And notice they did not print that honest number big, the way they print the one they want you to see. They tucked it down in the corner of the tag in pale little type, hoping a busy woman with 3 things on her mind and a child on her hip would sail right over the top of it, exactly the way she was meant to. I'm going to walk you through this store the way she once walked me through it, from the automatic doors at the front all the way to the register, and point out 8 separate tricks working on you the whole way down. Trick 5 is the one that quietly costs the average family the most money for the least good reason. And trick 8, the one waiting for you right at the checkout, is the trick that beats every other trick in the building. But only if you have learned to catch it. Pull up a chair and subscribe before we begin, and we will do exactly what Della did. Spend less, waste nothing, and keep the kitchen sense the supermarket would just as soon you forget. Now, let's walk in. Trick 1 goes to work on you before you have touched a single thing, and it is the floor plan under your own 2 feet. Watch how the doors slide open onto a wide, calm, mostly empty space. Flowers maybe, a bench, the warm smell of a chicken turning on a spit. There is almost nothing to buy in that first stretch, and that emptiness is deliberate because the store wants you to slow down, unclench your shoulders, and settle into the pace of the place before any spending begins. Then watch where they keep the milk, and the eggs, and the bread. The 3 things half the town came in for. The plain staples a store will sell cheap and sometimes at a flat loss, just to pull your body through those doors. Every one of them is set as far from the entrance as the walls will allow. Back corner, opposite side, the single longest walk in the building. A woman who came in for 1 gallon of milk has to cross the entire store to reach it, past the bakery, past the tall end caps stacked with the week's high margin push, past 100 bright things no living soul wrote on a list. And then she has to carry that gallon all the way back. They even build the carts oversized now, so a modest little pile of what you actually need rattles around the bottom looking lonesome, and your hand starts reaching to fill the empty space. My grandmother had one iron rule for that long walk. She never once shopped without a written list, and she never once set a thing in the cart that was not on it. My neighbour, Ruth Bowen, laughed at her for the list for years. Right up until the autumn, Ruth totted up her own receipts and went quiet, because everything she had never bothered to write down had been quietly bleeding her dry, a few dollars at a time, on the long walk to the cheap gallon of milk. That hall to the far corner is a toll booth, and the toll is every bright thing you pass to reach it. Trick 2 is about where your eyes come to rest once you finally stop in an aisle. The stretch of shelf your hand can reach without bending a knee or tipping your head. Right at the natural height of your gaze is the single most expensive strip of ground in the whole store. The brands know it down to the inch, and they pay the store real money to stand exactly there. Eye level is buy level. The product sitting at the height of your eyes is nearly always the one carrying the fattest margin in the brightest box. And it did not float up there on merit, it bought the spot. The honest buys, the plain store brands with the lower cost per ounce, get shoved down to the bottom shelf near your ankles, where a body has to crouch and squint to make them out, and look lower still, down where a child rides in the cart, and you will find the sugared cereals and the candy set exactly at a 5-year-old's eye level, because the store is working on your grandbabies too. The whole aisle is a bet that you will reach straight ahead and never once look up or down. I look up and I crouch down and I read that tag out loud right there where I stand, per ounce. And I do not care one bit who hears an old woman doing arithmetic in the cereal section. Try it just one time and you will never stop. Reach for the ketchup that lives at eye level, the tall, proud bottle everybody knows by name, and read the little figure at the bottom of its tag, per ounce. Then crouch down to the store brand sitting by your shin, the plain red label nobody ever wrote a song about, and read that one too. The plain one is very nearly always the smaller number, the same tomatoes for less on the ounce, and it had been sitting down there patient as a stone the entire time. My grandmother never once took a thing from eye level without first bending clear down to see what plainer, cheaper twin of it was sitting 2 shelves below at her knee, quietly waiting to be read. Trick 3. Waits at the meat counter. And it is the oldest trick in this entire video. That glass case is arranged like a jeweller's window, and even the light is in on it, tinted a little warm and rosy so the meat glows redder and fresher than it would in your own kitchen. The brightest, most perfectly trimmed cut is laid right at the front of the glass, under the best of that light, and it costs more on every single pound than the very same animal wearing a plainer face 2 feet to the left. You are paying for looks, plain and simple. My grandmother could stand at that glass and tell you by eye alone which cut the butcher had ordered too much of that week, and that was the one she carried home, because it fed her family exactly as well for less on the pound. Her whole trick was to ask the man straight out what was moving slow and what he had too much of, because the slow sellers get marked down or handed over as soup bones for next to nothing. There was a butcher named Earl at that Kokomo counter who set aside the shank end for her every Friday because she was the only soul in town who would take it, and she paid a song for it and fed the whole table on it come Sunday. And do not think for 1 second this is some modern supermarket racket. Lydia Maria Child wrote it down in 1832 in a little book called The American Frugal Housewife. The thick part of a thin flank, she said, is not so handsome in appearance as the fashionable pieces, and it ran a full 2 cents less in the pound, and she called it the most profitable part of the whole ox a woman could buy. 2 cents in 1832. $1 or 2 a pound today. The size of the gap has grown, but its name has not changed 1 single letter, and its name is vanity. The handsome cut and the homely cut go into the very same pot, cook down the very same way, over the same low fire, and feed the very same table by 6 o'clock. You cannot eat handsome. Trick 4 is the flip side of trick 3, and it is the cut the store dearly hopes you will never think to ask for out loud. The cheapest good protein in the whole building is very often not laid out in that bright case at all. It is kept behind the glass, or in a bin off to one side, or held in the back where you have to walk up and ask a man for it by name. Liver. Neck. The rack, which is the neck and the lower rib bones together, the part no shopper's eye ever travels to on its own. Child called liver the cheapest of all animal food, in that very same 1832 book, and she was right the year she wrote it, and she is still right this afternoon. Liver sits among the cheapest cuts on the counter by the pound, and it carries more iron and more plain nourishment in it than the pricey roast up front under the good light. Soak the slices in a little cold milk for half an hour to gentle the flavour. Dredge them in flour, and fry them in hot fat with an onion, and a pound of it is a full supper. And ask for the chicken livers while you are standing at that counter, milder than the beef and often cheaper still. A whole supper for a fistful of pennies. The rack, Child priced at 4 or 5 cents a pound, and she wrote in the plainest words that 4 pounds of it would make a dinner for 6 grown people. Della's sister ran that rack twice off a single buy, once as the broth ladled out first, and then the meat pulled over potatoes after. And when the meat was gone, she simmered the picked bones a second time with a bay leaf and cooked her rice in that. I still walk up to that counter and ask for liver by name, and I still catch a small look from the man behind it, and I still walk out having paid less for my supper than anyone else standing in that whole line. Della's sister never in her life called any of that going without. She called it Sunday. We are halfway through the store now, and 4 of these have already had their hands in your cart. The next 4 are where the real money hides. Trick 5 is the one I promised you back at the start, the one that quietly costs the average family the most money for the least reason on God's green earth. And here is the sting of it. This one the store barely has to lift a finger for, because the brand runs it on you all by itself. Reach out and pick up the name brand box of most anything plain. Rolled oats, all-purpose flour, table salt, baking soda, white sugar. Now pick up the store brand sitting directly beside it. Same oats, same flour, same salt, and I mean often milled and bagged in the very same plant, off the very same line, an hour apart, on the same ordinary Tuesday. The one true difference between the two of them is the box, the colour of it, and the little song about it that has been lodged in your head since you were 7 years old, and you pay every single trip for that box. The Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection put the number in writing, plain as a fence post. Store brands run 20 to 25% below the national brand for the identical commodity good, and that gap is the routine, not some once-a-year fluke. A full quarter of what you hand across the counter for that name brand box is the box. The plant does not stop the line and change the recipe when the store brand bags come down it. It swaps out the labels and keeps right on running, the same salt, the same oats, into a plainer sack.
You are paying that difference for a change of clothes on the very same product.
I bought the pretty box myself for years, out of nothing but habit, until my grandmother's arithmetic finally shamed me clean out of it one afternoon, right there in the aisle.
25 cents on every single dollar, week after week, year after year, for a printed piece of cardboard and a jingle. Add that up across a year of Fridays, and it comes to a whole week of groceries, handed back to them for nothing on earth but the wrapping.
Trick 6 comes dressed up to look like the smart, thrifty, grown-up move. And that costume is the entire reason it works. The big one, the family size, the value pack, the club store box so wide you need both arms around it. Everybody knows the big size is cheaper per ounce, and everybody is wrong often enough that the store quietly plans on it. That same Connecticut Consumer Office says it flat out in so many words. Larger sizes are not always the best buy.
Plenty of weeks the family size runs more per ounce than the plain medium sitting right next to it.
Because the store knows most folks grab the big one on faith and never once drop their eyes to the little number. And they make even that comparison a chore on purpose, printing one tag by the ounce and the tag right beside it by the 100 grams, so you cannot line them up at a glance and have to do the sum in your head or reach for your phone. And the giant box hides a second cost besides the first: waste. A big size is only ever a bargain if your household truly finishes all of it before it turns, or goes stale, or grows a science project in the back of the cupboard.
Half a value pack scraped into the bin turns your 25% saving into 50% thrown clean away with both hands.
I have stood right there in the aisle, with the family size in one hand and the plain medium in the other, and found the medium cheaper on the ounce more times than you would ever believe. The only way on this earth to know which box is the honest deal is that same small number at the bottom of both tags, per ounce. The big held up against the small. The two of them read side by side before either one ever goes in the cart. Bigger is only a word the box wants you to believe. It does not turn into a bargain until the number down at the bottom of the tag says out loud that it did.
Trick 7 is the last one they spring on you before the register, and it works on nothing but size. The end cap, that tall display standing at the end of an aisle, the pyramid of soda cans stacked up to your shoulder, the big cardboard bin heaped with bags of chips, right where the traffic turns the corner. Your eye reads all that prominence as a price. A thing piled that high and lit that bright and set that far out in the open simply must be a bargain, or why would anybody make such a fuss over it? But a display is not a discount. Half the time that end cap item is sitting at its plain everyday price, and every so often it is marked up a hair above what the same thing costs on its regular shelf back in the aisle, dressed as a deal by nothing on this earth but its position and its pile. The brands pay hard money for those end caps, the same way they pay for eye level, because the store knows a tall stack sells itself. And here is the tell. Look for the little unit price tag on the display,
and half the time it is not even there. Because a real shelf tag with a real per-ounce number on it would give the whole game away. My grandma never once trusted a pile. She would carry the thing off the end cap all the way back to its home shelf in the aisle, find the real tag with the real number at the bottom, and read it there before it ever earned a place in her cart. My neighbour Ruth Bowen got caught by one of those soda pyramids near every summer, hauling home a case she was dead sure was a steal, right up until the July she finally turned a can over against the shelf price back in the aisle and found she had been paying extra for the privilege of buying it off a stack by the door. A tall pile has never once, in the whole history of groceries, made a thing cost a nickel less. All it does is shout the same old number at you in a bigger voice. And that walk brings us at last to the register, and to trick 8, the one that beats all the others put together, the one Della saved her very sharpest look for. The sale. The sale sticker is the single biggest, brightest, reddest number anywhere in the whole store. Yellow tag, red letters, 2 for $5. The old price crossed clean through with one bold line, so you can see with your own 2 eyes just how much this store must surely love you. And it is still not the honest number. Here is what that sale is truly doing. It goes on the name brand, the one already parked at eye level, the one with a margin so fat it can hand a little sliver of it back to you and still walk away well ahead. And meanwhile the store brand sitting right there beside it, the plain one down on the bottom shelf with no yellow tag and no fanfare whatsoever, is very often still cheaper per ounce than the name brand is with its big red sale price. Sometimes that crossed out old price was never even the everyday price to begin with. The store can write a high number on the tag on a Monday, draw a bold line through it by Thursday, and call the ordinary price a sale. And the only arithmetic that ever truly happened between those 2 numbers happened in the marketing office. The sale is real. The saving is a story somebody wrote for you. And the only way through it, the only way through every last trick we have walked past together this whole trip, the milk in the far corner, the markup at eye level, the pretty cut, the printed box, the giant size, the pile at the end of the aisle, and now the yellow tag, is that one small number down at the bottom of the shelf tag.
Per ounce.
Per pound. The number they print in the smallest type the law will allow them, for one simple reason. It is the only number in this entire building they cannot dress up, cannot lift to eye level, cannot set to music, and cannot mark down, because it already tells the plain truth, and there is nothing left to be done to it. That is the number they hide. That is the whole game, from the sliding doors to the checkout. Della read that number out loud her entire life, and the day I finally started reading it out loud, right alongside her memory, was the day this store stopped being able to fool me at all. Every trick in this place is built for one single purpose: to keep your eyes up on the big, easy, friendly number. And beating the whole lot of it comes down to nothing grander in this world than learning to look down. So the next time you are standing in that bright, humming, air-conditioned store with a cart in your 2 hands, I want you to remember what all of it is truly for. Every foot of it. The milk hidden away in the far corner, the fat margin waiting at eye level, the prettiest cut laid out under the reddest light, the printed box, the giant size, the tall pile at the end of the aisle,
the cheerful yellow sale tag. Every last piece of it points you in one single direction, up toward the big number and away from the small one. The store is very, very good at its work. It has spent more money than you or I will ever see in one lifetime, learning exactly where to set the milk and exactly how small it can print the truth and still get to call it printed. And you need only the one habit to beat the whole machine at its own table. It is free, it is old, and your own grandmother very likely carried it in her apron pocket her whole life long. Look down, read the little number. Do the arithmetic out loud if that is what it takes, right there in the aisle where you stand, the way my grandmother did in that Kroger in the fall of 1975, with her thumb pressed flat to the bottom of a tag, reading out the honest price of a bag of oats, while the whole bright store shouted the other one at her. She put the plain bag in the cart, and she walked back out those sliding doors, having paid for exactly what she needed, and not one thin cent for the show. That is the whole inheritance, and it is smaller than you would ever think. Not a coupon, not an app, not some secret aisle they keep hidden in the back. Just a woman who flat refused to be hurried, who read the small print out loud whether the store liked it or not, and who taught the ones who came after her to do the very same. If you were watching this alone tonight, at your own kitchen table, with this week's receipt sitting there a good while longer than you would like, that habit is yours too, free for the taking, and nobody's permission needed. The store spent a fortune teaching you to forget it. My grandmother spent nothing at all to keep it, and she never once went hungry, and she never once went broke, and she never once in her long life paid for the show. Now I would dearly love to hear from you, because you people teach me something brand new nearly every week of my life. What is the one grocery store trick you have caught them pulling? Tell me down below. This is Granny Pearl, and I will leave the porch light on for you.